Hello, I'm Allegra Medson, the program director at Frameline, and welcome to Frameline 45 in the Q&A for Potato Dreams of America. Today, I'm joined by director Wes Hurley, executive producer Sarah Crow, and Hirsch Powers, who plays young Russian Potato. Hello, everyone.
Hi, thanks
Hi.
for
Hey, congrats to all of you for this absurdly charming and creatively executed film. I mean,
thank you.
Hirsch, your performance was so great. Well done. I
Thank
just
you.
absolutely fell in love with young Potato. Um, yeah, so Wes, tell us the story of Potato Dreams of America. I mean, I understand it's somewhat of an autobiographical tale, and I'd just love to hear its origins.
Yeah, so the film is 100% autobiographical. It's very, very faithful to my childhood. It's about my growing up gay in the collapsing USSR and then coming over to the United States with my amazing mom, who became a mail order bride. We came straight to Seattle, Washington, and it gets pretty adventurous and from there, yeah, there's a big twist at the end that I don't want to give away, but it's full of surprises, as real life often is, I think.
So how did this film come to be? I know that there was a short Little Potato, which screamed at Frameline as well. Perhaps y'all could speak a little bit to the evolution of this into the full blown feature we got to see.
Yeah, so I initially wrote the script for this 8 years ago, and as is the case with a lot of LGBT films and indie films, it just took a long time to get it made and get raise the money for it and everything. Um, sometime midway through that process, I got a small grant in Seattle to make a short film. So I made Little Potato, which is a short documentary, and then a VR piece, Potato Dreams. And the goal with those was to sort of leverage them as conceptual pieces to have to help me make this feature. Um, and it worked out. I mean, I think that's kind of a journey for a lot of films where you make a short and then you're able to expand it to a feature.
Absolutely. So the film is sort of divided into halves. The first half of the story is young Potato set in the Soviet Union or set in Russia while the Soviet Union is collapsing. Could you tell us a little bit of what it was like in Russia for you as a kid at the time, and how you took this on stylistically in the film?
Yeah, I mean, my childhood was very challenging as a gay kid. I mean, I wasn't out, but as a gay person in Russia, I believe it's still rough, but it was definitely very rough when I was growing up. There was no community, no media representations, nobody to look up to, and I really thought I was the only, as the character from Little Britain says, the only gay in the village. So it was rough, and it was really kind of a scary and exciting time in Russia in general because things were changing so rapidly, and it was kind of full of possibilities, and then those possibilities didn't materialize, unfortunately. So I try to sort of convey that in the first half of the film, this sense of excitement and this kind of gradual exposure to Western culture that really inspired my mom and I to come to the States, but specifically American films that we got to see. We got to see pirated American films, as a lot of Russians have at that time. So my idea with the film was to make Russia and US really radically different, to convey that sense of um, sort of alienation that immigrants feel. It's not, and in our case, not that kind of alienation, but just you really feel when you come to a different country that when you move to a different country that it can feel like you're on a different planet and you're a different person and everything is completely different. So I wanted it to feel jarring, and so the two halves are really different visually. There's two different composers for the film. There's two different casts for the film, and aesthetically completely kind of opposite. One is more naturalistic. Russia is more stylized and theatrical.
Is that something from your background, that theatrical aspect of it? It just lent such an interesting childlike whimsy to that part of the film. I was curious where that came from.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think childhood whimsy. I really appreciate how a lot of literature and even films deal with childhood in this way where you kind of put the audience in the mindset of a child. So there's a lot of magical realism in it. It feels very constructed. It feels very sort of like a fantasia in a way where it's reality and childhood fantasy is blurring. So that was definitely something I was interested in, because that Russia doesn't really exist anymore, even if I was willing to go back to Russia and film there, which is not an option. But even if it was an option, it wouldn't look the same, because it was this very specific time in our history that I tried to capture.
So this is the part of the film where you are a young potato. What was it like to inhabit this world, and what was it really like to work with Wes while you're portraying his younger self?
It was such an incredible opportunity. I love Wes. His story is so incredible and engaging, and it was such a privilege to get to tell it and be a part of it. This was my first short film, and just to see like everything move so fluidly was so incredible. Like we had this one set that was like 5 different sets in one almost. And so just like seeing things come up and down and in and out of the soundstage and going from scene to scene was really an incredible process.
So you were part of the short films as well?
No.
No,
I was just in this one, yeah.
you were just in the main story. So how did you all find Hirsch?
So it's an interesting thing, actually. I think in many ways we got the film made just in time before COVID because of Hirsch. So I started looking for a young actor early on, before we even raised the money to make the film, because I thought it would take forever to find, the right kid. And as soon as we started auditioning, Hirsch was one of the kids that showed up, and we were just blown up by how talented he is, how charming he is on camera, just very intuitive. Yeah, so I looked literally as soon as Hirsch left. I looked at our other producer, Misha, and I was like, we have to make the movie right now before he starts growing up. So we did everything we could to raise money to get it made, before Hirsch is too grown up to play that role.
Hirsch, I'm really curious. What did you think of the final product? I'm assuming you've seen the whole film.
Yeah, multiple times. Yeah, it's so incredible to see everything come together. I think that when you're filming, at least for me, I was like dropped in at different points in the story. And so it was really cool to see everything come together with the incredible music that was made for this film, and the sets and the editing and everything. It was so cool to see everything just like come together. Because this was my first feature, and because also I wasn't in the second half of the film, so that was like a whole new thing for me to experience when I watched it. It was so cool to see everything come together and form this incredible movie that we have.
Absolutely. Sarah, I want to hear from you. This sounds like a beast of a film to be the executive producer of. It seems like a lot is going on. What was your experience?
Well, yes, there was a lot going on. I think to Wes's point, I think timing was a little bit of everything. And to Wes's credit, and unbeknownst to him as to why, like besides her, she's like, we have to make this movie this year. And we're like, are you sure? And he's like, yes. So we were like, okay. So Misha and I and Wes kind of just rallied together to really raise the funding and then get really quickly into pre-production. We ended up filming the America in one block of 12 days, and we filmed Russia in one block of 12 days. So we were able to really just like focus on, it was almost like making two movies, but there was also some similarities with both, even though there was no actors. And I felt like it was a really lucky thing between all of the variables that brought us together for us to finish like 2 weeks before COVID. But yeah, it was definitely quite a journey, and it was like really a testament to, I think, the fact that we made the film in Seattle. With Wes has been making films for about 10 years in Seattle, and I've been working with him for most of that journey, and I feel like because of his talent and heart and loyalty, like everyone was like, yes, like what can we do to like help make this film a reality, and just really pitched in to, you know, to make this thing real in the like very short time that we had to do it.
So you finish, what stage of finish were you 2 weeks before COVID? That were you just done with the shooting? Did the editing happen before?
We picture wrapped 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks before the shutdown, which is kind of, I mean,
it's amazing. That's
on the budget that we were working on and the resources that we had, it would have been almost impossible to like stop and start again later. And so I think the fact that we were able to finish, Wes edited the movie himself. So it was actually, COVID might have been a tiny blessing, because he just like also was like, I need to finish the movie, like final product of the movie less than a year from now, which we were able to do. And, you know, staying at home helps some of that.
amazing. I'm so glad that y'all made it right before the whole world exploded. That's crazy. Yeah, you kind of hit on this a little bit, but the second half of the film is the period occupied by young adult Potato, and it does the work of communicating a very different set of experiences and a set of circumstances, and I know you called it more realistic, but I was wondering, it seemed a little hyper real to me, like a little over real, and I was wondering if that portion of it was at all influenced by all the 90s, 80s movies, pirated movies you were watching.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of that. You know, there's a limit with how much I could push it into that like John Hughes territory on our little tiny budget. But there's definitely a lot of influences from 90s, like early 90s, late 80s films that I've seen. One of the ways is the music, for example. You know, we had two different composers. Joshua Cole composed Russian score, and he is a very kind of avant-garde, really amazing composer. And then Katrin Joy, she composed the American score, and I specifically send her all of this, like Curly Sue, Steel Magnolias, like those movies from the early 90s as an example. And it was kind of exciting to kind of recreate that feel on a really small budget. You know, and also visually, yeah, trying to make it sort of joyous and colorful and more freeing, you know, because the Russian sets, they're all very kind of claustrophobic and darkly lit, whereas, you know, in the States, we tried to open it up quite a bit. But there's still, you're right, there's still a sense of artifice, I think, in it. It's still a very stylized film all the way through.
Absolutely.
Not quite much.
Yeah. Our production designer, Kristen Bonnelly, really helps craft the world. Ah, there's Lena. There's the real Lena. Hi. You should come say hi.
Absolutely.
It's my mom.
Oh, well, Wes's mom was the heart of the movie. I will say that. So it's been but the production design really like helps build the worlds. Like Wes has a very vivid imagination and also a very specific one, and really knew exactly what he wanted. And Kristen Bonnelly is an amazing production designer and just was really touched by the story and the connection with Wes and the production, and just kind of gave it her all. And the distinction between America and Russia is they both are characters of their own.
So it was the same production designer who did both.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. What I really loved about it's like they both managed to like create, both sets managed to create this like wildly different worlds, but like a weird sort of like reciprocal system of oppression existed kind of in both. And there was like this, both sides kind of had this menace to them that I thought was just really well executed. That's not really a question, but I just think yeah, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the casting. Like, I mean, in addition to hers, Dan Lauria, like the quintessential American dad, and Leah DeLario, like almost completely unrecognizable. Like, how did this all come together?
Yeah, so the cast, the project started with the cast. I initially wrote the film for Mariah Kaminsky, who plays Lena in America, because I've just been such a huge fan of hers, and I wanted to create like a vehicle for her showcase her talent. And then as we got closer to shooting, Hirsch, like I was saying, we found in Seattle, amazing Seattle treasure. And then the same sort of audition process, we found Tyler Bocock and Sarah Barbieri. For our bigger stars, Leah DeLaria was just kind of a magical person to work with. I still can't believe we got her, because even in our pitch doc and lookbook, I used Leah DeLaria for that character, because I was like, this is what I want her to be like, right? And so when we pitched it to her and she said yes right away, it was just, it just made me so happy. And she does such a good job, and I can't wait for people to see her really transformed. Dan came to us through our casting agent in New York, and I just loved they pitched Dan to us as the character of John, and I just loved that idea, because like you said, he's so iconic as this like all-American dad, and to take that character and sort of a very different take on that, but still kind of an iconic American dad, but very different. It was very exciting, and he was such a joy to work with. And the last, Jonathan Bennett, I think, got cast last. He's the Jesus, and he was just really fun to watch work with Hirsch, and the chemistry that they created together was really, really fun.
Yeah, I really loved your relationship with Jesus.
The gayest Jesus ever. With the best eyebrows.
Right. Yeah, so knowing that this film was autobiographical kind of kept this level of levity even in some of the darker moments, because I know that Potato makes it out okay. But I'm curious, and I'm sure everybody else, we kind of got a sneak peek, but I'm curious about what happened next. Like, how is your mom? What does she think about the film? What's up with your stepfather? What happened next?
Yeah, so my mom is doing really good. She's very supportive of the film. She was really helpful with Little Potato, the short doc that we made. So she knows the story of the film. She hasn't seen this whole film yet, because she actually is holding out. She wants to watch it in like a theater with an audience, which we haven't had an opportunity to do yet. But hopefully, later this year. But she's seen a lot of the scenes, so she likes it a lot. And then my stepmother Her name is Grace. Her name is Janice in real life. She passed away several years ago, and we're very lucky to see her like the day before she passed. We held her hand. We went to the hospital to see her, and so she'll always be a really important person to us. Yeah, and I'm just in Seattle making movies and
Making movies. So, what's next for all of you? Is it too soon to ask? Do you have anything in the pipeline? Thinking about any new projects, or the future of Potato Dreams?
I know Hirsch has something coming up.
Oh yeah. So I have this show that I'm doing in person over the summer, which is exciting. First theater performance in person, and I'm really excited for that. And then I just finished an online show of like 15-minute musicals, so that's exciting too.
Cool, congratulations! I can't wait for theaters. Can't wait for your mom to see the film in the theater. I think she's kind of smart to wait. I think this is going to be a great film in the theaters, just to have the audience there experiencing it.
Thank you. Yeah, and for me, I'm babysitting this film for this year. I'm starting to write my next project, which is based on a true story on a friend's series of memoirs that a friend wrote, and it's also a very queer and very unusual story. I think far more unusual than Potato Even. So I'm really, really excited to bring this very wild story to life soon.
Well, I cannot wait. Frameline's here when you're ready.
I know. Yeah, the film Wes is talking about is going to be pretty special, and the fact that it's autobiographical as well is like, it's going to be pretty great.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome! Y'all are all leaving us on a cliffhanger. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I don't know if I need to say it again, but I absolutely was. Potato Dreams just like totally like grabbed my head and was like, it just took me on a journey. I was like, I'm here for it. I don't know where it's going, but I'm absolutely here for it. It was great. And to the rest of our Frameline audience, Potato Dream is streaming nationally as part of Frameline 45. And so please tell your friends and family across the country to tune in frameline.org and check out Potato Dreams of America. Thank you all again so much.
Thank you so much for having
Thank you.
Frameline is
the film.
I love Frameline so much. Every time I've been in person, it's such an amazing experience for filmmakers and audiences. And I'm just so thrilled that we're in, and it's going to be a drive-in screening as well. And yeah,
I can't wait to be at the drive-in.
Oh yes, we will get to meet in person.
Yes, so exciting.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.